I don't think he works at all on offense. I think he exclusively works on defense because we don't really know how good Champ Bailey can be because he never really had a chance to focus totally on defense when he was at Georgia. Kudos to Charlie Casserly, Norv Turner, and everybody there. You made the trade. You made a move up. You protected yourself, got one of the players you coveted and won in the first round. I think that's just an excellent move. You take a look at the secondary. They've acquired Sam Shade this year. You got Lamont Evans at free safety. Chris Dishman. Chris is getting a little bit older, can be a great tutor for Champ Bailey. Darrell Green continues to play at a very high level. It helps this secondary out tremendously, and it's going to really help the side of the ball that needs an awful lot of help, and that's the defense of the Washington Redskins. The deals for the tackles last year, now you get a corner, you make a deal for a safety. The pieces are starting to come together. An opportunity maybe, just maybe, for whoever winds up owning this football team to say, hey, these guys are doing a pretty good job. I think I'll keep them around.
Well, maybe so. You're going to start singing? Well, you like to pick, I know, because if it can be anywhere close to Darrell Green, 16 years and still going strong, he's going to be a heck of a player. The importance of having a top-notch cornerback in the NFL, you ask around the league, cannot be understated.
First of all, the most important thing on defense is pressure on the passer. Now, how does that relate to the corner? If you have great cover corners, you can send more people to the quarterback. It's that simple.
It's so important today with the changing offenses from a defensive standpoint to be able to take a side away or a particular player away. And I think that's why there is a sudden move in the direction of the cornerback position.
When you look at a team that you consider a championship caliber team, that's one of the areas you look at immediately, because that's one of the areas that if you are subpar out there and you give up some plays, it's going to cost you games.
You've got athletes at receiver nowadays that can make an awful lot of big plays and make them real fast. You've got defenses that are becoming more zone blitz oriented, more blitz oriented, putting more pressure on the corner and requiring a better player at the position.
The more and more empty sets we see with 5 wide receivers, the 4 wides, the 3 wides now is standard. Third cornerback is a starting position anymore in the National Football League. It's just a reaction to what the offense does. The defense has to counter, and so those quality corners, and especially the so-called shutdown corners who can lock out a receiver, are as valuable as any defensive player you have.
Well, Washington certainly knows all about it, having had Darrell Green and for a couple of years while he was still great Chris Dishman. And now they hope that Champ Bailey can fit that mold. Well, Champ Bailey is one of the most exciting college players we've seen in quite a long time. Why don't we go up to the guys who watched him week in and week out, and that's our fellows in Bristol, Coach Gottfried, Kirk Herbstreit, with our man Chris Fowler. Chris?
All right, Boomer, anybody who watched Georgia play saw a lot of Champ Bailey guys. He played more than 90 plays per game his senior year. That's more plays than anybody really in the modern era of college football. When you look at his 1998 season, played so many plays, Mike, that at times it was kind of unfair to judge him as a defensive back because he played so much receiver, also played on special teams. He got tired a lot, but when he was not tired, he was truly great.
He's an impact player. You talk about a great player. 4'3", 40, 42-inch vertical jump, plays on offense, defense, special teams, does it all. With very long arms, which allows him to jam the receiver. Here he's against Peerless Price of Tennessee, doesn't let him off the football. Excellent ball skills with the interception. He can blitz off the corner. You talked about Chris. He averages over 100 snaps per game. Good hands. He practices 20 minutes with the offensive football team and then goes in and makes big plays on offense. His speed is excellent. I've talked to a lot of pro people, and they talked about if he was a wide receiver only, he'd be a top 3 pick. And when you look at Champ Bailey, you're maybe looking at the next Deion Sanders, Kirk.
Well, I don't know if he's the next Deion Sanders because I question his ability to play wide receiver. People are comparing him and looking at a Deion Sanders. Think of the offensive skills. Chris and I saw him play against Tennessee. He got winded. He got tired early in that game, had to step out, and they tried to play him just primarily at the corner position. He is legitimate, one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. I like Chris McAllister, the long arms. He can play man-to-man as well as anybody. He fits in well with this system.
That's why I think it's tough to judge him as a defensive back. He did get very tired in that Tennessee game, ended up giving up a touchdown pass, but that's because he was on the field constantly. Obviously won't ask to do that in the NFL. Now, the the comparisons with Charles Woodson, last year's Heisman Trophy winner, are obvious. You can see that Bailey had a much bigger impact on offense. Georgia, frankly, needed a big impact on him on offense. They were lacking in big plays when Bailey wasn't in there as a receiver. Defensively, some would say perhaps a different kind, less physical defensive back than Charles Woodson, but Champ Bailey headed to Washington with the number 7 pick. We'll continue our NFL draft coverage from New York and Bristol with the Cardinals on the clock.
Buy any Tacoma truck, and you can get packages of our most popular options discounted up to $2,400.
Joe and Phil both know an important call can come at any time. Because he's a courteous guy, Joe's turning his cell phone off. Phil's leaving his on, which isn't going to win him any popularity contests. But Joe has SkyTel, so even when he turns his cell phone off, a SkyTel operator converts the caller's message to text and sends it right to his pager. So while Joe is looking at the movie, Phil is looking for the exit. SkyTel puts you in control. Can your pager do that?
Ken Griffey Jr. 9 straight gold gloves, 1 dazzling bat. Watch one of the best swings in the game spark a long ball battle in Anaheim. Mariners Angels, the Sunday night game of the week. Tomorrow at 8 on ESPN.
On our team, we have Russians, Germans, Swedes, you name it, we got it. And we're all one big happy family. Привет, Shane. Иди покатайся в облаках. That means Shanahan is a good and great man. I love you too, my brother.
Back in New York, and last year at this draft, the Arizona Cardinals, the woe-begotten, the Arizona Cardinals, who hadn't seemingly made a good move since they became a state, had perhaps the best draft of any team in the league. One of the moves they made by swapping spots 2-3 with San Diego, allowing the Chargers to get Ryan Leaf. They moved down 1, picked Wadsworth at that spot. Then later on got Corey Chavis and Eric Metcalf and Patrick Sapp in that deal. But here's the last part of it. Number 1 pick of the Chargers in '99, which turned out to be the number 8 pick overall, meaning Arizona is one of 2 teams that has, or one of 3 teams that has 2 first-round picks, and so this is a real bonus for Arizona. So while they might have wanted Holt, they still have a player as we go to your board. Who might they be looking at?
I think the offensive tackle, the left tackle, John Tate. Critical because of Jake Plummer. He's your franchise quarterback. You have to keep him in one piece. John Tate would be key to that equation. He'll be 24 years of age, very mature young man coming out of a pro-style offense at BYU. I think you look at the other tackles, John Jansen, a right tackle. L.J. Shelton, very interesting because he's your dominant left tackle and had a heck of a year at Eastern Michigan. Even as a junior, protected the blind side of Charlie Batch. Aaron Gibson, a right tackle, could move inside to guard as well. But I think for Arizona, they have another first-round pick where they can look at that wide receiver spot, the 3rd wide receiver spot, also help out in the return game at that point. But I think John Tate, critical because he's an outstanding left tackle, the best left tackle in this draft, Chris.
Well, they lose Lomas Brown, and they want to give they want to give Jake Plummer help somehow. 3rd wide, as you mentioned, extra blocking. They were thinking about a back, but the backs were gone at this time. So we will debate what Arizona's going to do, because they'll be a very interesting player, a team that not only made the playoffs this year, but won their opening round playoff game against Dallas. Let's go around the league. We're about an hour and a half in. Start with Cleveland, where it all began. Sal Paolantonio.
In Cleveland, the Browns made Tim Couch, the Kentucky quarterback, the first pick of the draft. All night long, they negotiated with his agent, reached an agreement this morning, and they've got Couch now to be maybe a legend, just like Bernie Kosar was in Cleveland many years ago. Bernie, in the war room, looks very happy about the pick. Now let's go to Sean Salisbury.
Here in Indianapolis, the Colts have passed and pulled a shocker by not getting Ricky Williams. They go for Edgerrin James, the Miami Hurricane running back, who they say is magic. Now they've got to convince their fans of that, many who've called already, to voice their displeasure. Let's go to Andrea Kramer.
Here in Minnesota, it's new owner Red McComb's first draft, and head coach Denny Green is keeping him apprised of what they'll do with their 10 picks today, including 2 number 1s, 11 and 29. They lost 4 starters on defense, so they'll need to replenish depth. But keep in mind that the quarterback they like